what this does is it measures the horsepower at the motor, and it's in percentages of horsepower, and you can regulate this to where you want this at, and that reacts as your safety device instead of a shear pin. So if you set this thing, right now I got it set at 60% of the motor horsepower, and it seems to run. Now, somewhere down the road this thing will probably have to be adjusted, and you can adjust it down, take a look at it, and I'll show you more out there when we go out there on how to adjust this thing and what to look at on it. So quarterly, they ask for you to remove the shear pin. This unit don't have a shear pin on it, so just look at your shear pin, look at your sprocket, drive sprocket, see how it's doing. Just an observation on it. Annual maintenance. Again, you'll get into the reducer, and it's 10,000 hours or every 2 years, whichever one comes first on this thing. So you want to check the reducer for leaks. See if everything's bolted down tight, see if it's any noises, that type of thing on the reducer. Check to see if alignment's okay, just an observation. The motor staying cool, nothing's getting hot type things, and that type of stuff. Safety precautions. Everybody knows about safety, the guards, and then just if you're working around it and it's running, be very careful, watch what you're doing, take precaution. And then if you're working on it, always lock it out with a lock for safety. Okay? Repair parts and replacement parts. So if you run across something down the road that needs, you think some questions about, or it's acting funny, there's a telephone number and we've got an email address. You can talk to our purchasing guy. And if he can't handle it, they'll put you in touch with the engineer. And any questions or what about the bar screens? We've been building these things for since the late 40s, and they haven't changed hardly the designs on them too much. So we don't build too many 2 shafts. Most of them are 1 shaft with just no idler shaft. So the bigger they go, the more shafts they put in these things. So these are pretty good sized ones out there. Okay, go over to page 5. Okay, you got some information there on reducers. This is basically the reducer you've got out there, some information on it. Tells you a few things, dimensions and different things that might come in handy. So all this information that we've got here is in this manual too. It's come out of this manual, so you can find all this information inside the manual there. Okay, let's go over to page 6. Okay, now 6 is your drive sprocket, and it's their 11 tooth. That's the one that's on the reducer. It's keyed, and you got 2 set screws. And again, observation on the maintenance. It's going to get some lubrication off the chain when you lubricate the chain, the drive chain. Okay, let's go to page 7. Okay, page 7 is your driven sprocket. That's the large 34 tooth that's keyed to the head shaft. 2 set screws, maintenance, observation. It's going to get its lubrication from the chain again. Just keep an eye on it, doesn't move. See, make sure the set screws are tightened down. Okay, go to 8. Okay, this is your drive chain. Some information down there on the drive chain. Travel, shows you the travel with the large end forward or open end forward. You can either open end or large end forward. Either one of those tells you what it does. That's the way it's supposed to be traveled. It's a roller chain, again, every 8 hours of running, lightweight oil on it. Them's our recommendations. Go over to page 9. Okay, this is our head shaft sprockets and idler sprockets. Now the first one you'll see is PM5 down there. It's got a key weight. That's your head shaft sprocket. You'll find two of those guys there. It's keyed to the head shaft with two set screws. It's split, and it's got a chain saver rim. And that ring around here is what I call a chain saver rim. So, again, if they have to be taken apart, you can split them apart, take the bolts and nuts out, and not have to take the shaft out of the thing. Maintenance, gonna pick its lubrication out of the water, coming up on the carrying chain. Observation of how they're running. Okay, let's go over to page 10. These are your head shaft and idler shaft bearings. Roller tights. Maintenance, once a week, grease them. There's some other information down here on sizes and things like that. You want to check those. See if they stay tight, the bolts are tight, nothing's moved on them. Okay, go to page 11. Next page. It's your carrying chain, welded steel chain. That's your attachment link. And travel, like I say, is open end or large end forward. Some other helpful information there. Let's go over to page 12. These are set collars, cast iron set collars, split. If you have to take them off, you just unbolt them and come undone. And change them without taking the shaft out again. All you want to do is check on set collars, just make sure they're tightened down, haven't moved, just keep your sprocket in place. Go over to 13, there's that just an anchor bolt, so we can skip that. Move on to 14. That's your limit switch, it's up there on the top, that's the park switch. Again, no maintenance, observation, see if the switch's arm is being hit by the one tab that's on the rake as it runs by. We adjusted it up out there, it should hit it, so just check it, make sure it's still hitting it all the time and hasn't moved on you. You have to, you can bend it a little bit, it's movable, that's the way you adjust it. So just make sure it's hitting the tab and it's not hitting any of the other rakes as they go by. So that's the thing, it just hits the one rake. Okay, let's go to 15. Now this is the Emitron. It's down here in the right-hand corner. What this thing does, it monitors overload and underload. You can set it overload or underload. So we got it set out there now for an overload and an underload. And what will happen if it goes into an overload condition, something jams into it, this thing will shut it off. Now if it goes into an underload condition, the only way it can go to an underload condition if your drive chain breaks. And the percentage of the drive chain, the percentage of the horsepower will drop down and shut the unit off. Now I don't look for that to ever happen, breaking drive chains, but it's set that way. So somewhere down the road, if the chain would break on it, the drive chain, it would shut it off for an underload. Overload is, you can set the thing for horsepower percentage, kilowatt, or kilowatt percentage. And the most precise way to set it is horsepower percentage. So it's set for horsepower percentage, and you're measuring the horsepower at the shaft of the reducer. And you have to plug in the amperage and the horsepower on the motor tech. There's about 10 steps you have to run through out there to program this thing, and it's very easy to change things. So we go out there, we'll go through that thing and show you that a little closer. You get a little idea and any questions on that thing, how to work that thing.
Hey Jack.
Yes, sir.
On the if you get into that situation where you've got an underload condition, drive chain pulls apart or whatever, on the park switch, can that swing in the reverse direction in case you've got an unbalanced condition and your carrying chain starts to ride in the opposite direction?
The limit switch will work either way.
It will.
Yeah, if your rake's coming towards it, the arm on it, I don't want to say this, will work either way. You can go left or right, and it works either way.
Okay, thank you.
In other words, it wouldn't back up against it and break it off type thing.
That's what I was
Yeah,
asking. Thank
no,
you.
it won't do that. Okay. The Emitron, like I say, when we get out there, we'll go on to this a little bit deeper and you can understand it some more. If you got any questions out there, we'll answer them out there where you can see it. Go to 17. That's the bearing, 1-inch bearing that's on the wiper assembly. Again, that's a weekly grease operation. Check it, make sure it has loosened up, bolts are tight, that type of thing. Okay, go to 19, say 18. That's the shock that's on the wiper assembly. There's some information there, it tells you about compressed and extended and stuff like that. I ain't supposed to tell you this, but you can probably pick that shock up at the auto store. Okay, let's go over to 19. That's just some information on your Eurodrive gearbox. Your touches, goes into a little bit of things on the whole thing. There's in the O&M it goes into a little more details than just a couple of pages and stuff. Go over to 20. Okay, this is the lubrication chart on it. Now you'll see that there's different brands. They recommend, like I said, 10 through 630, and it's based on the temperature of the room that's out there. You'll be selecting the type of lubrication. If you don't use any of these things, all you have to do is cross-reference and see if it is what you're using agrees with this, and no problem. Okay. Oh, 2. Like I say, 10,000 hours over 2 years, but if you can use synthetic, and all it does is double the life of the lubrication that's in there, if you decide to go with the synthetic lubrication. But it's more expensive, so. Go to 21. Some more information on lubrication, on the types of gearbox you got there, capacities, and things like that. Again, it's got a sight gauge on the gearbox, it's got a vent plug and a drain at the bottom, and if you lose the vent plug for some reason, you want to make sure you get another vent plug back in. Okay, that's about it. Does anybody have any questions on anything? Talk about anything. This is our 2-shaft bar screen. Now this is our head shaft up here, the one in the front that's keyed. It's keyed, everything on that shaft is keyed. Now, that's your idler shaft in the back. Nothing on that's keyed. Okay, we'll start off with the reducer. The reducer, like I say, you got sight glass for this box, and you got a sight glass for this box. You got a level that goes to the sight glass, you fill through the top and drain at the very lowest point. Here, and somewhere on the bottom here, there's a drain on this.
Well, you can't get at it, right?
Yeah, that's what they usually do. Yeah, and then the worst thing about these things is I always thought you go down to the hardware store and get you a nipple and screw it in and put your fitting.
Yeah.
Everything's metric.
Oh,
Everything on there is metric.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so cause you can't go down to the hardware store. You got to go to some specialty store and get the metric threads. But now they tell me that they make a metric connector that goes in. It's got standard threads on these. You can screw a standard pipe. Everybody tells me that, but I haven't seen one yet. I don't know where you get one at. That's the only thing about it, yeah. So 10,000 hours every 2 years. Motor-wise, there's nothing on the motor. It's self-contained and everything. Like I say, it comes through with Mobile 630. We've drained it to the correct level. It's down to the correct level on both gearboxes. This is your drive sprocket. Usually we have a shear pin, but there's no shear pin in this. So this is just your standard sprocket, keyed to the shaft, and that's driven is keyed to the shaft. Maintenance, just an observation thing. You know, now the guard on these is open in the back, so you can be able to look in the back side and look at the sprocket and stuff without taking the guards off and things like that. The driven sprocket, keyed and set screwed to the shaft. Chain every 8 hours of running. You want to lubricate the chain. Adjustment is adjusted here on the drive, on the driver, drive reducer. Slack, inch or more doesn't hurt it. As long as it's not dragging on the bottom of the guard, you'll be okay. Travel, this is our open end forward. This thing travels this way like this. Okay. Your head shaft sprockets. These are your head shaft sprockets. These are your idler sprockets. They're split with chain saver rims. Maintenance, like I say, is going to pick them out of the water. You're going to get your lubrication out of your water for them. Observation type thing on just see if they're wearing. Keep an eye on them. Just that's about it. No maintenance at all on them. This back here is our wiper assembly. We call our wiper assembly here in the back. It's got the shock on it, and then the PVC wiper. You can't very well see it unless you come back here. The PVC wiper is inside, right underneath here. This is the PVC wiper right here, this gray thing. Underneath here, and it's about 4 inches, I think, wide, so it runs up to about here somewhere on the back side there. And like I say, you want to look at it monthly, see how it's doing, see if you need to bring it down, make sure it's not wearing and you're getting into the metal on your wiper assembly. Like I say, they're slotted. You can drop it down, and when you run out of slot, turn it over and go to the other side of the wiper. Now this has got stops on it. The stops are set at the factory for 4 inches, and we don't like to drop them down. A lot of people will want to get the thing way back into the rake, but if you go down past, move those stops, you get it back into the rake. Instead of pushing it up, it'll drag it back in and tear it off. So you don't want to move the stops on the thing. The only thing you want to do is adjust your wiper into that position about there, and keep it about like that, and then just keep an eye on it. If you need to, adjust it down more. Lubrication, it's got bearings up at the top, it pivots, 1-inch bearings. Those are greased weekly, along with your head shaft bearings on the head shafts are greased weekly. Okay. This unit here has what we call, it's got 2 chutes on it. This chute here drops it on the conveyor, and this chute here, I guess, will drop it out in here into some kind of hopper or something. This is the first time I've ever seen one like this. We had time with this in the shop, so this is 2 types of chutes on it. You can